Hello, and welcome to episode 34 of Mishmash Mayhem.
Rehash Mishmash Mayhem!
The podcast where we take the schoolyard conversation of, hey, which one of these fictional characters would win in a fight, and we talk about it on a podcast.
That's what this is.
Yes, for the first time in a long time.
And this is definitely the first time we've done this episode, and definitely not the second.
So we had technical issues. I don't know how or why or when it happened, but when trying to download this episode after we recorded it, I somehow ended up with only 20 seconds of audio.
This, coupled with the fact that I was away for 9 weeks, meant that unfortunately you have not had an episode in a while. We apologise.
No. I mean, obviously, even if this episode hadn't previously broken, that would have only meant you got one more episode. Because we had to sort of plan for Wade to be away for 4 weeks, because, I don't know, that was what we had planned for, and then he was away for 9, so...
Yes, work is... Well, you know, they made a lot of people redundant, and then they got a lot of work. It's very stupid, because they didn't really need to make half those people redundant, but whatever.
The world is crazy right now.
The world is crazy right now. But we are back.
Similarly, I think it's fair to say, I won't be able to... I mean, I might have a vague estimation, but we probably won't remember what our clues for the characters... My clue for the character was last time.
Oh, God,
It was so long ago.
It was a long time ago. Handily, I don't need to remember the clue for mine because they already exist.
They do already exist.
But anyway, welcome to Mishmash Mayhem. Have I been? Oh yeah, you know, right? Well, been at sea, innit?
Yeah.
Sea was okay. I only vomited once.
That's good.
And that wasn't the really rough day. That was the day before the really rough day.
Oh, preemptive vomit.
Well, I think it was because I had it wasn't too rough during most of the day. It got rougher at the end of the day, and so I'd eaten lots of cake at pudding time.
That's fair.
So I don't think that helped. The really rough day, I managed to minimise my roughness by sitting in the most stable chair on the boat and staring at a wall for pretty much 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a good wall.
Well, that's good.
Didn't vomit though. Huzzah.
Also good.
Also good. What about you? What have you been doing for 9 weeks? Probably more by the time this episode. Well, no, actually, because an episode came out while I was away. 9 weeks anyway.
I mean, I'm back at work now. It's fine. Things are starting to pick up again now. People are sort of aware we're open overnight again. But yeah, no, it's pretty good. Things have been all right.
Things have been all right. Right. Anyway. Without further ado, should we crack on?
Yeah, what are we here to do today?
Well, for those of you who are new, and for those of you who need a refresher or a reminder, we're here today...
Oh, I'm one of those.
Me too. We're here today to discuss which one even, of two fictional characters a selection of our favourite fictional characters would win in a fight to the death. Last time we had Geralt of Rivia against Doctor Strange, and in a nightclub... Well, it wasn't just in a nightclub, it was at a bubble foam party, wasn't it?
Foam party.
Party, yeah. Geralt of Rivia was victorious over Doctor Strange, claiming his mish, earning him 1/3 of his ticket entry to the patented Hall of Fame. It's not patented, I don't know why I said patented, I meant something else. So what we're going to do today is we're going to introduce the characters, starting with the reigning champion, as per tradition, and we're going to go through stuff like their weapons, their skill set, their mindset, and how badass they are, and what they think of the new COVID restrictions about pubs closing at 10 p.m. That won't be as topical by the time this comes out, but yeah, it's funny anyway. And then we're gonna decide where they're gonna fight by rolling the Mishmash Mayhem Die of Death.
The Die of Death!
Then we're going to go through it and see who we think would win. So,
who do you think will win?
Well, I don't know. I don't know who your character is yet. I mean, I do, but I also don't. I did used to know, so I know who it will be, but I don't remember who it will be because it was a long time ago. So, Geralt of Rivia from the Witcher series. A series of video games and now a TV series based on books by some guy who likes witches, apparently. Geralt of Rivia is a witcher. He is a man who roams around the world, taking on contracts to kill evil creatures such as weird drowning fish people or just bears for a living. Witches traditionally work alone and wander around by themselves, which is, a little sad. But it's okay because he's not really alone because he has two swords. It's not really not being alone, is it? Geralt of Rivia is God knows how old, we don't really know, and is one of the most experienced witches going in the business. But just what is a witcher, you ask?
The Wicked Witcher.
The Wicked Witcher. In this universe, the witches are not just... You don't just become a witcher by thinking, you know what, I could be a bounty hunter of monster people. I could do that. No. Witches are typically discarded children who are taken in by other witches and trained at a... I don't remember the name of the place. Yeah, they're trained at Hogwarts. They're not trained at Hogwarts. Trained from a young age to be witches, but it's not just regular training. It's not just like sword. Don't get me wrong, there is a lot of sword fighting and stuff in there, but these children are injected with mutagens, which are kind of like DNA splices and stuff. Normally that have derived from monster critters, and they're injected with these and put through a series of very harsh trials and DNA experimentation in order to make sure that they're the best they can be before they don't be against monsters, and make sure that they continue to be. Unfortunately, as a process or as an artifact of this process, Geralt lost his lovely coloured hair. I don't know what colour it was before, but it definitely wasn't grey, and now it is. That's why Geralt of Rivia has grey hair, because of all his mutagen modification. But on the plus side, it does give them access to a wide array of what are called signs. These are like pseudo-magical powers that the Witcher gains access to and is able to use, A, to help them in combat, and B, just to help them light candles on the wall if it's dark. What kind of signs, you ask? We'll start with the one I just alluded to, Igni. Igni is a sign that Geralt has and allows him to light or unlight small fires, including campfires, candles, torches, fireplaces. You know, what an excellent, useful ability that is. But wait, what's better than lighting a candle? Setting your foes on fire. That's right, he can set foes on fire too. With the use of his Igni, he performs a wave of fire will erupt from his hand, which has a chance to set his foes on fire, as well as inflicting, of course, fire damage upon them. What else would be useful if you were fighting a foe? I don't know, maybe the ability to push them over. Well, he's got a sign for that too.
Like a Jedi.
Just like a Jedi, but not as good as a Jedi. Don't remember what this side is called right now, so I'm going to have to Google it, because it's been a while. I think it's Axii. It's not Axii, it's Ard.
I'm Ard, mate.
I'm Ard, mate. Yeah, they should have called it Ross Kemp. He's well Ard. Quickly use the Ross Kemp sign. Ross Kemp is the Witcher. Do you reckon Ross Kemp would make a good Witcher?
No, but I would enjoy watching it.
Oh my god, I'd enjoy watching it so much. Anyway, Ard is another magical sign that he has access to, which you can use, and it's like a telekinetic blast. It can be used to destroy small, flimsy structures such as wooden doors, passages blocked by boulders. And also it can, of course, be used in combat, frequently making foes stumble, lose their footing, and sometimes also throwing them backwards several foot onto the floor. The grand thing about someone being on the floor is you can stab them really easy. Yeah. So, other signs that he also has Axii, the one that I accidentally misnomered. Axii is instead of being a more physical damaging sign, such as Ard and Igni, is more of a telekinetic influencer, allowing a mild hypnotic effect, frequently used by Geralt of Rivia to calm horses or make people think what he wants them to. Also used in combat against certain animals to change their behaviours slightly. So, for example, there's a type of monster that has a bunch of spikes that are really bad, and using Axii on this monster will make it withdraw its spikes, so it's not as prickly. It's no longer a prickly pear, it's just a pear. But what happens if you don't want to influence someone's mind? What happens if you want to protect yourself?
You could influence somebody's money. I was going to say you could influence somebody's wallet, and I said money.
Hello, £5. Strangle him.
Shut up.
Strangle him.
It's got the queen on it. Go get him, queen!
Go get him, queen. If you're more interested in defending yourself, there's a sign for that. Oh wait, there's two. Jurden is one of his signs. I assume I'm pronouncing that wrong, but I'm going to stick with it. It's a magical sign that sets up a kind of magical trap, sets up like an area which is depicted by like a bunch of glowing runes on the floor, and anything which enters that area, other than the Witcher, of course, is visibly slowed down. And it also makes non-corporeal forces become corporeal, so spectres and ghosts and other things which are, ethereal or in a different, unable to be affected by material matters. It's just such a disappointment you can't see our faces sometimes. Like when I'm saying shit like that and I'm like thinking of a word and I just make a blunder. It's a great face.
This is my blunder face.
This is my blunder face. They become able to be attacked and damaged. Additionally, his last sign, well, from the games that I've played anyway, I've only played the Witcher 3. It's funny because I have to redo a lot of things. Is Quen. And Quen is like a magical barrier, like a shield put up, and it will protect Geralt from the first strike against it, unless it's a pretty pathetic strike, in which case it will protect against quite a few, essentially nullifying the damage until it breaks, and when it breaks, it will produce a small explosion of, like a force explosion, not like a explosion, a battering force out. Enabling him to, send foes awry. So, that's the signs. That's what he gets from being a Witcher. But what else are Witchers famous for? They're famous for carrying around 2 badass swords. One of them is a standard iron/steel sword used for chopping down humans, dogs, bears, and carrots. Maybe potatoes.
And carrots.
And then, of course, he has a silver sword, which is the bane of all monsters in the Witcher universe for some reason. There's probably a good lore reason, I don't know why. And he uses that as well. So he's got, 2 swords, one for people, one for non-people. Happy days. He's naturally incredibly talented with swords. Having been trained up at wherever the hell he was trained up, I'll literally forget. Hogwarts. He's really good with a sword. Geralt himself is a very defensive and methodical sword user. Able to go into a parryable stance where he holds his sword kind of like above his head, pointing towards his foe. He is frequently able to parry most blows, especially from people with weapons, and even able to parry projectiles, crossbow bolts, arrows. That's nothing. Geralt can fucking sword that out of the way. He's a badass. While sword fighting, he will also tend to do a lot of back steps, side steps, and rolls defensively, and wait for area to attack. This mostly comes from the fact that he although don't get me wrong, he's very good at killing people, he's mostly going around killing non-people. He knows a lot about his foes, so he knows, exactly how to exploit their weaknesses and bring that to his advantage. Just in case the foe is flying, he also carries around with him a little crossbow. This crossbow can be loaded with various different projectiles of varying potency, but normally it's just got crossbow bolts. And the benefit of him being a Witcher is when he's aiming this crossbow, due to his super enhanced senses and stuff, it effectively slows down time, allowing him to get better accuracy in shooting moving targets, for example, or just regular targets that stood still. More time to shoot them in the wherever you need to shoot.
Anus.
In the anus, yeah, that's where you need to shoot everything.
That isn't what I said, but I'm happy with anus.
Oh, what did you say?
I said penis.
Oh, okay. Well, they're roughly the same height.
If you shoot one of them hard enough, it will hit the other.
Yeah, exactly. Other than that, Geralt is also well versed in herbology and potion making. Normally carries around a stock of various different potions and oils which will enhance his resistances to a certain effects, such as resistances to fire, to toxins, to poisons, or oils which will be used to enhance damages against certain foes. Naturally, though, this is really useful when he knows what he's up against, because he can be like, I'm up against one of these bad boys, I'll slap on some of this oil, get some of these potions ready, I'll be dandy. So that is a good summary of Geralt of Rivia, the Witcher.
Ooh.
Methodical, well prepared, good with a sword. 5 magic powers.
So what? Who's Geralt against, I hear you ask?
Yeah, who's Geralt against, I ask?
Well, I believe my clue was something like it's a character from arguably one of the best games ever made, probably one of the best GameCube games ever made, certainly. And it's somebody who's had biological changes, experiments, the such, done to them. And that character is Jack Krauser from Resident Evil 4.
Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, he's also in, I want to say, Resident Evil Dark Side Chronicles, which was a spin-off. The only main series game he's in is Resi 4. Jack Krauser was a former US soldier, was very well trained in, all manner of weaponry, as you would expect a soldier to be. He's very good at shooting guns. He's very comparable with grenades. He tends to use flashbangs and submachine guns as his standards. But as well as being trained in ranged combat, he is also highly skilled in close quarters combat, where he uses a serrated dagger, very good for cutting people up, as well as powerful punches and kicks, because he is a well-built guy with all of the muscles and the strength and that. So, that's kind of how he fights, for the most part. But he's also actually very well trained with bow and arrow as well. If you play the Mercenaries minigame on it, you get to play as him, and you have a bow and arrow, because why not? But then the thing that makes him sort of quite interesting is, as well as sort of being able to fight with the punches and the kicks and the daggers and the guns and the grenades and all of that sort of stuff, is he has a Las Plagas sort of mutation, which allows him to turn his left, just looking at the picture to see which arm it was, his left arm into a big fucking spiky thing that can also sort of fan out to make a shield. With this, he is able to do, sort of very powerful stabbing attacks, and like I say, he can fan it out to make it a shield. When it is in it, well, I suppose even when it's not in a shield, but this arm of his is bulletproof. That's how sort of durable it is. So he can essentially use his own arm as cover, as well as a very powerful stabbing attack. He's also able to sort of do short dashes with this, so in a superhuman sort of speed sort of thing, but only across maybe a sort of 5 meter range. And it does he sort of does the dash and then he'll sort of stop for a second or two, in the way that you expect boss battles to do with those sorts of attacks.
He does a boss battle dash.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I absolutely know what you mean. I just find it a funny description, that's all.
He'll do a, and then if you dodge out of the way, you can then shoot him in the back quickly. You've got an opening.
No, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying it's a funny way to describe it. I like it.
So that's very much how he behaves in combat and such. He too, sort of being a trained soldier, and that is quite methodical in his combat style, quite reserved and that. But also, I imagine he's probably easier to provoke to anger than Geralt is.
Yeah, probably. I mean, don't get me wrong, Geralt can get angry, but he's... I haven't ever seen him super angry in this game.
Well, I more sort of mean, he's very professional and sort of would fight with a lot of skill and stuff, but I imagine it would be easier to bait him into sort of becoming hot-headed and aggressive when it's not necessarily the best idea to do. Just because he's quite he's had a lot of trauma in his past. He has a lot of issues to sort of prove that he's the best soldier. So it's that sort of has led it to maybe his additional aggression that can be brought out and sort of get him off his fight path, I suppose, if that makes sense. But that's pretty much Krauser. So I suppose now what we need to do is find out where the two are going to be fighting. How do we find out where they fight? Well, we roll the die of death.
What on earth is that noise?
That was me giggling at where they're going to fight. So today's fight is taking place in the most childlike of wonder of places, the ballpit.
I have a feeling that Geralt is not going to get, either if he dies now or even if he moves on, he's never going to get a reasonable arena. He's always going to get somewhere just full of crap. I love it. A ball pit is a great arena. A ball pit is a great arena. They just won't be able to see each other at all.
Also,
they
right,
will.
they'll be able to see each
So
other if they stand up. You know, it's only going to be like knee high with balls, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, I know how difficult it is to walk through a ball pit. Well, I haven't done it in a while, but to be fair, I'm not wearing armor, so I don't know how hard it is to. I don't know if that makes it easier or not. Actually, it would make it a bit easier. It depends how, you know. Do you know what I mean?
I honestly wouldn't know whether or not.
I mean, they're both going to be in the same situation. They're both treading on horrendous amounts of plastic balls, shuffling and shuffling.
So many balls.
so many balls.
Coloured balls everywhere.
What's your favourite coloured ball?
Red.
Red. Alright, so is this ball pit, is it an isolated ball pit? Are we talking a ball pit at the bottom of a slide?
No, it's an isolated ball pit.
An isolated ball pit. Is there anything else around the ball pit? Or is it, you know, like a ball pit in its own plane of existence?
Yeah, it's its own special. It's, you know, the ball pit realm, the realm of ball pits.
the ball pit plane. Where the ball
I
pit
kind of
was
imagine, you know, like, I don't know, sort of just being trapped in a pit, but it's a ball pit.
Forever. I mean, there'd be worse places to be trapped. At least you could have fun for a short while.
Yeah, that's it. There'd be stimulation and stuff.
Right, cool. Okay, so how is Krauser? How is he going to be entering this place?
He's going to rappel down from a helicopter.
I love it. Okay, cool. So Geralt of Rivia, not Gerard. Definitely not Gerard. I definitely didn't have that written down on a piece of Excel. Reminded me who he was.
Sorry, do you have a piece of Excel I can borrow?
Yeah, I've got cell XXA 1462 for you. Lovely, thank you.
That's fine, I only need to make a small note. Gerard.
Brackets of Riviera.
Of Rivendell, yeah.
Geralt of Rivendell. This is the new Witcher. Who's the most famous Gerard there is? He's got to be a footballer, right? If I just Google Gerard.
Wade.
Who's Gerard Wade?
A singer from My Chemical Romance.
Oh. So I googled Gerard, and the first Gerard that came up with, well, actually, I mean, the first result is Gerard, Wikipedia. Gerard is a masculine forename of a Proto-Germanic origin, blah, blah, blah. And then there's a dude at the side, Gerard Butler.
Yeah, he's an actor.
Oh, yeah, but who is he?
He's an actor, isn't he?
Yeah, but I don't recognise him. Who is he?
I don't know.
Oh, he was in Olympus Has Fallen, and London Has Fallen, and Angel Has Fallen.
I've not seen any of them.
No, neither have I. He was in 300.
I've not seen that.
Wow, okay. He was in Law Abiding Citizen.
Yes, he was. Yes, he's the guy in prison. Yeah, that's a good film.
I haven't seen that one. Collectively between us, we've seen 2 out of 5 films that he's been in. I mean, he's been in more. He's been in like 50 films, including this is by the way, for people joining us, this is a classic segue. Whether they make it in or not, I have no idea.
You mean tangent, not segue?
Same difference. Geralt of Riviera, definitely not Gerard of Rivendell, is in this ball pit. God knows what he's doing there. He's probably just been contracted to kill, you know, a ball pit demon or something. Because you know, why else would he be there?
Ball pit demon.
Yeah, ball pit demon. Horrific. Cool. So he's there. He's hanging around. He's probably splashing a couple of balls. You know, having a bit of relaxation time because you know witches ain't got no time to relax. They just wander around being sad and playing Gwent.
I mean, Gwent is better than The Witcher as a game. There, I said it.
I mean, Gwent. I've enjoyed playing Gwent a lot.
And obviously, Krauser's been told he has to kill Geralt because I don't know. Geralt's probably up for killing zombies, right?
I don't see why he wouldn't be. I mean,
yeah, Krauser works for the guys who make the zombies. Geralt's killing the zombies. Krauser's been told to kill Geralt. Makes sense.
Makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. And also, you know, one of us was being bullied at some point.
Yeah, that too.
That too. It's always going to be canon.
Then what happens? So all of a sudden, like, Geralt looks up, sees helicopter, you know, propellers going and all that. He probably hears it.
I mean, also, you're forgetting that ball pit balls are incredibly light. There is going to be a huge amount of plastic balls fucking flying into the air underneath his helicopter, like smacking Geralt in the face.
It's going to be the most amazing thing.
Like, it's just like, oh god.
Then a flashbang goes off, and Geralt's all like, ah! And as he gets his eyesight back, there's a man in commando gear standing in front of him.
Surrounded by balls.
Surrounded by balls.
Don't take that out of context. Or do, be our guest. Please send in your out of context fan art to... I don't know.
Podcast MMM on Twitter.
Yes, do it digitally, yes. Send us your out of context fan art. Right, so, Geralt, he's seen this guy come down. There's only one natural thing. He looks like a man. He probably is a man. He'll just draw his steel sword out. I mean, honestly, it wouldn't make a difference. Let's be honest. I mean, we've consistently translated effects through people's own, what's the word? Realms, yes, and the rules. So a silver sword or a steel sword is going to do the same amount of damage against matey boy. Not that Geralt knows that. Not that it matters. He's got a steel sword out. And he's going to go straight into, parry position. Because that's what Geralt does best. He just loves taking his time, parrying. But at the same time, he's really badass. He can take down humans pretty fucking easy. Like, even witches, I'm pretty sure he's fought witches. He probably has at some point in the other two games. He can go toe-to-toe with a human pretty easily. Like, definitely a regular human anyway. So, I don't think he'll be too concerned about much at the minute. He'll just be, like, shuffling himself, getting ready, and being fucking irritated at this waist-deep ball pit that is impeding their movement.
So how far away are they?
I don't know, like 10 foot, something like that.
That's not very far at all.
No, I don't know, yeah.
So which pit? What?
It's a ball pit.
Well,
it's a ball pit.
You're a ball pit.
I'm not a ball pit.
In which case, I imagine Krauser will probably go in to try and... Well, I don't know, actually. Because I was going to say he'd probably try and go in and stab you with a dagger, doing the dagger stabbing. But then you've got, like, what's his name? Geralt of Rivendell. He's got a sword.
And swords are good at
swords
keeping...
beat daggers.
Swords beat daggers at sword range. Daggers beat swords in grapple range. But the problem with dagger versus sword is that sword protects you from entrance into dagger range.
So I imagine that Krauser will try and back off, but also get out his submachine gun.
Well, I mean, sure, yeah. Why wouldn't he have a submachine gun? He's smug. Get out my smudge.
Yeah, he's got an SMG and a dagger and flash grenades.
Yeah.
Okay. And be backing off, away out, like maintaining out of sword range and just spraying bullets with his SMG. But it's not really spraying bullets because he actually knows how to use guns. So, aiming bullets.
Aiming bullets. All right, so...
I want these bullets to hit that man.
I want these bullets to hit that man. Such a weird thing to say. Can you imagine gangsters saying that before they shoot someone? I want these bullets to hit that man. I don't know why I sound like a Rastafarian then. Jamaican using an Uzi. Okay, so I mean, if he goes back and withdraws a gun, right? I mean, I'm not saying obviously there's not going to be a massive amount of time to react, but Geralt would probably see him withdraw some kind of weapon. I mean, I don't think guns are commonplace in the Witcher world. I don't think they've got to gun technology, but he's probably not. I don't think he would. I think he'd be able to recognize it as a longer range weapon. Do you know what I mean? Because it isn't a blade or something. Even if he thinks it's some kind of magic box, I believe he would be able to discern its purpose, and so therefore would probably go to. There's a gap between them. The terrain is awkward to walk through for both parties. Mm-hmm. So gaining ground quickly is going to be difficult. But however, it is also incredibly advantageous for hiding yourself because it's completely opaque balls. So I'm not suggesting that he's going to necessarily have time to fully conceal himself within the balls before the rounds start firing at him, but that would probably be a good maneuver for Geralt to do, is to think, well, he's got some kind of something that's going to fire at me. It's not close range. I better hide myself. Doesn't matter if I can't see him. I've got my fucking Witcher senses, boy. I'll be able to hear the fucker, especially if he's making loud sounds or whatever. So I reckon Geralt's plan is to do a classic duck and cover. Probably like, I mentioned he does like, side rolls and back steps. Probably the best attempt at a side roll he can do, where he, instead of coming back up again, he just remains crouched over to the side, whichever side it may be.
Okay. So he's hiding under the balls.
Yes.
Well, Krauser's going to know roughly what direction he went. So he's going to head over that way, swinging his dagger through balls.
Oh, okay. So he's not even going to continue with the SMG.
I think he'll like, if he can't see him, there's no point wasting the ammo, I suppose.
Well, that's a fair point, yeah. I mean, like, so, he gets out his SMG to start, and then just starts firing, maybe like traces, following Geralt as he kind of balls in, and these balls just spray and get fucking shattered and ripped apart by bullets. Yeah. It's like, and then like as it just goes into this rumbly area, it's like, well, I'm just shooting into plastic here. And to be honest, I don't know.
He's going to reload first. First thing he's going to do is reload.
Yeah, good idea. I'm not sure how well a ball pit would protect you against bullets, but I don't imagine it's actually the worst.
Really? I would have thought it would offer you little to no protection.
I mean, it depends. I don't know. Because, like, vests, right, are just like stupid amounts of layers, right? And it slows the bullet down because it's loads of layers. But I suppose, to be fair, there's probably going to be, 10, 20 balls between you. Also, the whole point of like a bulletproof vest is that it's really dense, whereas balls, the balls of air were like thin plastic with air in the middle. Yeah, I don't know what you're on about. Yeah, okay, they probably wouldn't be, but I feel this is an experiment that real scientists need to do. If you're a real scientist or a ballistic expert and you have access to guns or a ball pit, find someone who has access to the other and please conduct an experiment. Do not endanger yourselves. And let us know of the results. At Podcast MMM on Twitter. Alright, cool. So, traces Geralt, oh my god, Geralt into into the ball pit, quickly reloads, seeing he's not there, and you say he whips out his dagger. Yeah. Alright, and starts, like slashing. You can imagine swaves of balls just carousing everywhere. Geralt, meanwhile, sword is not going to be the best use while he's covered under loads of balls. Sure, he can swing it about, but it's going to make it awkward, isn't it? It's going to be like fighting underwater, except it's not water, it's balls. But he's going to have, a vague idea of where Krauser's coming from because of his Witcher senses. But if Krauser's coming towards him, I think Geralt's best bet is for him to set up a Jurden trap, because, I mean, I did tell you that before there were, there's some beacons that shine on the floor, but they're not going to be able to be seen in a bloody ball pit. So, no. Geralt can think, right, well, I can just shuffle back a bit to the back edge of my Jurden, wait for him to enter, and then I'm going to have an advantage where even if I just pop up and, swing my sword at him, I'm going to have a good, I'm going to have an advantage there. Geralt's all about making advantages for himself. That's what he like. Yeah, and I imagine that's what would happen. So yeah, underneath the balls, he thumbs his sign, shuffles back a bit. The shuffling is even going to make Krauser even more aware that Geralt's location, and he'll come slashing in, probably, towards that source of sound. I mean, obviously, Krauser would obviously as well know that using a sword inside the balls, being covered up is going to be difficult. So, that's advantage Krauser, according to his books, probably. Yeah, well, I think Krauser's going to certainly be trying to, close in on him. But then if Geralt's put, traps under the balls, they'll probably be effective because Krauser won't see them coming. Yeah, so Krauser's, shuffling in. Is he a bit of a sadist? Is he going to be laughing? Or is he just going to be, focused? No, I think he'll be pretty focused. Okay, cool. I don't know what kind of man this is. I've never met him in person. Yeah, I don't think he's a sadist as such. I mean, I don't think he necessarily dislikes... He's not against causing pain by any means, but he's not, going to get off on it. He's just there to do a job, Yeah, fair enough. He'll enjoy his work, but he's not Yeah. There's a difference between enjoying your work and enjoying suffering. Anyway, so he's slashing. There's balls spraying. There's a red one. Oh, that's gone. A blue one's been slashed. Oh no, your favourite green one's gone. And he walks in, and Geralt can sense that he's just entered in the Jörden trap, and suddenly, I mean, I don't know whether the creatures affected feel that they're affected, but I imagine they probably do.
Yeah.
So suddenly he just feels himself slowing down. He's like, what? And Geralt pops up from this ball pit. It looks amazing. And very not witchery. Ready with his sword to, make some attacks at old Krauser boy.
But Krauser's been slowed, so would probably be unable to stop Geralt with Geralt's onslaught of attack. Potentially, depending on what attacks Geralt was going to do.
He normally goes for slashes from the game. Mm-hmm. So, slashes. Slashes, I guess.
I mean, right, yeah, power 70, high crit rate.
What? Oh, right, yeah, sure.
Whereabouts on Krauser's body is he going to slash?
Well, he wouldn't, although he's got the Witcher senses which can tell him that Krauser's approaching, it's not like a definitive human shape. It's just a, like echolocation. Well, not an echolocation, sure. You know what I mean. It's like a location. So it's not as if he would know exactly, his arm is there, his head is there. Because would have stepped back and popped up, he's probably just got to go for, and as Krauser's moving forward, he's probably just got to go for what's available. So it will probably be the leading arm wielding the dagger, which is also a good idea anyway, because if he disarms him, that's advantage Geralt. That's disarm either figuratively or literally, by the way.
Okay, that's fine. Just because I was going to say, if he was going to hit his left arm, even slowed, I feel like Krauser could quickly transform it into his mutant thing and use it as a shield and surprise Geralt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
However, the arm he uses his weapons in is his right arm. He's obviously right-handed despite having a mutant left arm.
Yeah.
So in which case, I entirely believe Geralt can slash it.
Lovely. So, as he's going for a slash, he's only got a dagger hand. Some counter attacks come in. I don't know how well this Krauser boy can hold on to a dagger while he's having his arm sliced in slow motion. I don't imagine the odds are high.
I was going to say, I don't imagine many people could keep hold of a dagger when they've just had their arm slashed open by a sword.
Yes, yeah. So his dagger's probably going to be
fallen and lost beneath the coloured balls.
Either dropped, fallen somewhere. It's gone. It's bad news bears for all bears. Bad news bears is a phrase, isn't it? God knows what it means.
I've never heard it before.
Well, you've never heard bad news bears?
No.
Where does it come from? Bad news bears. Where does the saying bad news bears come from? Oh, it's literally from the title of a film.
Yeah, I don't think it's a saying. I think you've made it up.
I mean, it is a saying. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Yeah, it drops on the floor. And, Krauser is he's a fairly strong-willed, biogenetically engineered human as well, right?
Yeah.
So, don't get me wrong, this Jörden has had effect on him, but I don't imagine it's going to be, lasting all that amount of time. And also, having just been slashed, I don't imagine he's going to want to hang around. Whereas most beasts are not necessarily cognitive and self-aware. Well, I mean, not that Krauser would know whether it was an area of effect or a mind thing or whatever, but he knows that a negative effect happened to him.
Mm-hmm. He is aware he's in slow motion.
Yes, I would imagine that he's going to have enough time to do some kind of reaction before Geralt gets in any further. And to be fair, Geralt might even, he might even after disarming him, literally, do another duck down and shuffle around a bit and prepare. He's going to be able to track Krauser with his Witcher senses by listening to the shuffling. So it's almost like he's got an advantage by being hidden because he'll still be able to see. And he's also got access to two mid-range signs, fire and Ard. Ard probably not being incredibly useful because it would just fire a fuckload of balls everywhere.
Throw balls everywhere.
If he wins, he's absolutely celebrating by lying on the floor and just going, Ard, Ard, Ard.
Things you shouldn't do in a ball pit. Lie on the floor, hiding, shouting Ard.
I mean, I once stepped on a kid's right in a kid's belly because he was fucking lying in a ball pit, and he started crying, he's bawling his eyes out because I fucking ran over him, and he got out, he's like, you ran over me, and I was like, well, you were lying down. I didn't say this, but if I was as sarcastic as I am now back then, I would have been like, well, you were bloody lying down in a fucking ball pit, mate, what'd you expect? Instead, I just looked at him weird. His parent came over and said, don't worry, he deserved it, and I moved on with my life. True story. So
that's some great British parenting there. Yeah, my son was a bellend.
I mean, it's good parenting. You shouldn't dote your children to make them think that something's never their fault. Oh, there was no take responsibility for their actions. Honestly, I think Geralt can just go for another duck. He's, prepare like another Igni or another Jurgen for even if, or something defensive. He's not going to find his weapon without scrabbling around on the floor. Not, so I think.
And even if he did, his arm cut, ruined.
Yeah, exactly. So, and to be fair, Geralt could also. I know I mentioned Dard as a silly thing, but he could use that as a distractive thing as well. Just arge through the balls. Make Krauser think that he's in a different direction. I think Geralt's going to take advantage of the strange environment he finds himself in.
Yep. Well, I think Krauser, again, he's got to head to he's going to know roughly where Geralt is.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's seen him duck.
Perhaps a bit more cautiously this time. He's going to start heading towards that direction.
Mm-hmm.
I think either if he can get hold of Geralt before Geralt can attack, he can transform his arm into a big blade and just stab him.
Mm-hmm.
Or if he at least leads with his left hand or left arm, because it's not already ripped to shit, he can sort of transform that and use it as a shield to parry Geralt's attack and then stab him.
Yeah.
It's sort of his thinking. He's thinking there's no point trying to find his knife because, as you say, it'd be difficult, and his knife wielding hand or arm is fucked.
Yeah.
So he's not going to transform his arm now and give it away what's going to happen, but he's going to lead with one of those two scenarios is what's going to play out as far as he's concerned. And find Geralt first.
So is he going to try and walk towards Geralt to goad an attack, or is he going to stay frosty, wait for the attack and be ready to defend himself?
He's going to walk towards Geralt. His plan being, if he finds Geralt unaware, I suppose, he'll attack first. If not, if Geralt attacks him first, he can then parry and stab.
Of course, because he doesn't know that Geralt can track him quite well through the ball.
Yeah.
Okay. So
we both know it's going to be the second scenario, but
yeah. Okay. So that scene in Jurassic Park 2 where the Velociraptors are walking through the long grass and they're making tracks, and it looks really cool.
Yeah.
So you can imagine Krauser is like a human in this instance. You have to almost backward imagine it. There's a shuffling of balls moving around that Krauser's probably following, but Geralt is also fully aware that that's following him. You can see a rumbling movement, rippling the sea of balls, and he's walking towards it, ready to do something. But I think Geralt this time is going to go for Igni. And I think Igni is a good shout here because these balls are going to melt, boy. So he wouldn't, he'd wait for Krauser to get within a reasonable range, the range of his Igni, not close enough for dagger. Not that he has a dagger anymore, but he could have anything in his back pockets.
Yeah.
Pop up again and then throw out an Igni blast in Krauser's direction. As mentioned, Igni is like a blast of fire wave. It does have a chance to set people on fire. I don't imagine it would set Krauser on fire, to be honest. Pansy little humans, but he's a bit more bulky, isn't he? A bit more resistant to stuff like this. But it's still going to burn, and the balls in the path are going to also be blazed and melted, and some of them may even stick to old Krausy boy in an unpleasant fashion.
Yeah, Krauser's going to get burnt, covered in melted plastic's going to burn into his legs. It's not going to be very nice. He certainly wasn't expecting that. He was ready to block a sword attack, but not a fireball.
Well, it's less of a fireball, more of a fire curtain. Does that make sense?
Well, even so.
Yes.
He was not prepared for it. He's very much going to, I guess, be burnt, staggered back, or, very much open for Geralt to follow up with an attack.
Yeah, Geralt probably wouldn't lunge in because he's not that uncautious, but he would definitely be back into sword parry position. He can't see any obvious weapon on the guy. Definitely making an advance into sword combat range rather than keeping him at mid range now, especially with the fiery, plasticky, burny advantage.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I think Geralt would be able to get in and get some attacks in. Well, Krauser is confused and on fire.
So if he manages to get in, obviously he would get into and then probably just go for. He stands in this pose. It's probably quite good for to do some thrust or something. He's going to have to go torso high above because there's balls everywhere else, and you're not going to be able slashing through balls is going to be ridiculous. So it's probably going to be aiming for the torso, because the torso is always a good place to go for.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a slash across the torso. Krauser's still fumbling back a bit, but regaining his composure. In between slashing, Geralt's trying to get back into his parry posture if there's the available space. Stepping in again, coming in for a second attack.
I mean, if Krauser's recovered by this point, again, this would be where he'd transform his arm and use it to block the sword, because he doesn't really have much of a choice.
Yes, absolutely.
And then he'd be hoping that, he could then throw the sword, not throw the sword, but push the sword away off balance and then stab Geralt with his sharp arm.
Yeah, Geralt, goes in for another slash. Krauser bringing his arm in defense, which Geralt probably notices the arm coming across, but is like, I'll just chop your arm then.
Oh, he would. It's huge.
Oh yeah, but as it's coming across, it then starts transforming into whatever it transforms into.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. So bringing it in front, and it transforms into that thing. Do you know if it's bone or metally?
I suppose technically it's bone, but I mean, like I say, it is bulletproof. He does use it as a shield.
Oh yeah, I'm not suggesting it's not strong bone. I was just wondering what the materials. Cool.
But
so
I suppose it's technically bone.
Transforms into that, and Geralt's attack is well and truly blocked by this. And Geralt is probably a little bit shocked at this point and thinking, maybe I need my silver sword out. If he's fighting something which looks kind of monsterish, because there are quite a lot of humanoid critters in his...
Monsters.
Yeah, critter monsters in his verse.
Yeah, unfortunately for Geralt, Krauser isn't magic, it's biological.
Well, it doesn't matter, to be honest. We've already discussed that the actual sword that Geralt would use wouldn't matter. But Geralt would think that his silver sword would be better. But obviously he's in combat at the minute. He's not going to change swords unless he gets an opportunity to change swords. Because the swords do still do damage. They're just worse. Far worse. Half as worse in his mind. Anyway, so gets blocked, and what's he going to do with his block? Is he going to just push the sword away?
Yeah, I was thinking he'd push the sword away to try and off-balance Geralt and then stab him right in the chest.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, Geralt's quite strong, but wasn't necessarily expecting a massive giant arm blade to appear out of nowhere.
Also, look at Krauser. I mean, he's strong too. He's built like a...
He's built like Guile from Street Fighter.
Yeah, he is. Sort of look. But Guile was very much like the 90s soldier. This is just like the early 2000s soldier, but with a mutant arm.
So manages to sweep back the sword. Geralt probably would, stumble a little bit. Well, not necessarily, stumble, but have to regaining composure sequence. And Krauser, goes for a lunge, I guess then? If it's a stab, it's a lunge.
Yeah.
Goes for a lungy at old Witcher boy. Old Witcher boy.
Yeah, no, I don't think he'd activated a shield or anything, had he?
No, he didn't. No.
So he's going to get himself stabbed.
Yeah. I mean, probably somewhere in the flank area, which is probably going to get a little bit of pain to his gain. He's been attacked by quite a lot of things before, though. It's not going to be like, if I got stabbed in the side, that would be game over. Not because it would kill me straight away, but because I'd be in so much horrific amounts of pain that I'd be reading over. I'd be never going to do. But in the same way that Krauser took a lot of damage to his arm and was fine to some degree, it's going to be painful for Geralt, but it's not going to be a debilitating blow.
Okay.
It wouldn't stop him from carrying on. But he is now going to be obviously a lot more cautious. So probably, as he's already got some backwards momentum from the deflect, turn that into like a back step and back into a sword parry position to kind of reevaluate what is going on now, because he was fighting a man that had nothing, and now he's fighting a man with a giant bone sword arm.
Yes, bone sword arm.
Welcome to my bone sword arm.
Well, Krauser would know, being aware now that he can do something that makes him slow motion and something that sets him on fire, and that he's clearly got good sword skills and the such. So I think he'd go for his boss battle dash attack just to try and quickly get in there to stop anything bad happening to him.
All right, so he's fucking flouncy lunge through the balls.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, Geralt has dealt with a lot of fast critters in the past. I mean, how is this like normal speed, fast, or super fast?
Somewhere between fast and super fast. We'll just call it fast, I guess.
I think
it's above human speed, but it's not like you can't see it fast.
Yeah, it's not like anime fast.
Yeah. A well-known Mishmash Mayhem term.
Yep, anime fast. So Geralt's fought quite a lot of critters in the past, being quite fast and stuff. Don't get me wrong, there's not the greatest amount of distance between them.
That's sort of what Krauser's relying on, really.
Yeah, so I don't think he'll necessarily be able to, sidestep completely out of the way, like he would normally intend, but I do think he'd be able to at least step beyond the main lunge, even if he gets, literally bodied. Like the effective of rugby tackled, but not rugby tackled by Krauser's body.
This, his sort of dash attack does tend to, rather than be a stab thing, like a knock people to the floor sort of thing.
Right, yeah. So I don't think Geralt would necessarily be able to get out of the way. I think he'd be able to get out of the way of the actual danger blade, because that's quite a narrow area of effect. But he might not. Krauser is still a man. He still has a width and a mass. And he might not necessarily be able to get out of the way of the full lunge, if that makes sense.
Yep.
In time. And he normally does a side step as well. So, it's not as in, how do I describe this? It's like a side hop rather than a step, although that hop is going to be more difficult in balls anyway. So
things are harder in balls.
So I wouldn't be surprised if, he gets bodied a bit and falls over backwards or sideways as he's avoiding, diagonally away from Krauser into the balls. But being a sensible man, I think at this point Geralt would put up a safety Quen.
Okay.
Pretty much as he lands, like, oh dear, this is a bad place to be. His first thing is going to be safety Quen.
Yeah. Well, I think knowing that he knocked him over,
he would know that.
Yeah. Krauser would then probably go for like a big dramatic sort of stab down at the floor, sort of thinking, yeah, this will be my finishing move.
Yeah, I know this. I know the sort. And he's going to have a very good idea about where he fell, because unlike actively hiding in balls where your feet are already planted either on the floor or in a low layer, if you jump into a ball pit, you're normally still a bit visible, aren't you? Yeah. So I think he's got eyes on Geralt.
Also, he's used to knocking people over with this.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think he's going to go for like a cool dramatic stab down. He's going to do it. It's going to hit Geralt's Quen, which will blow up in like the force ball thing.
Oh my god, it's going to be so cool. And fucking balls are going to fly everywhere.
Yeah, but it's going to stagger Krauser enough for Geralt to instead stab him in a dramatic way.
Well, I mean, he would give Geralt an opportunity to stab him if Geralt was upright and in a position ready to stab. But, he's just fallen over. His first thing is like, a better safety. There's not much time for him to do much else before Krauser manages to get a downward stab on there. What's probably going to happen is, as mentioned, the Quen would block this stab and do its small explosion rupture, either staggering or pushing back Krauser, sending balls akimbo bloody everywhere. It looks awesome, by the way. And, I mean, Geralt will probably be somewhat prepared for that. His explosion is going to affect him, but it is going to affect the support behind that he's lying on, which are the balls, which are also going to get blown a bit away. So I don't know whether Krauser's probably just stumbled a bit by this, but Geralt will probably land on the floor and have to then either hastily jump up or roll back into bally cover.
Which is he going to do?
It depends on how stumbled Krauser looks.
6 out of 10 on the stumble scale.
6 out of 10, he'll stand up.
Okay.
If he looks like kind of just knocked back a bit. If Geralt thinks there's time for him to stand up before Krauser regains composure enough to do something, then it's reasonable for him to stand up, because Geralt, even if it's not necessarily true, I don't know whether it is or not, whether he's got more of an advantage one-on-one, he's going to think he has a good odds one-on-one. So as long as he doesn't think he's at a disadvantage by standing up, he's probably going to go for a stand-up if Krauser looks fairly bedaffled.
Yeah.
That's a real word.
Okay.
It might not be a real word.
By the time Geralt has stood up, Krauser's probably back ready to...
Yep, and balls have, reshuffled it back again. There's probably it's definitely not as deep as it was in this area anymore, but balls have started to cascade back into the void from where they were.
Cascade of balls from whence they came.
Cascade of balls. Right, yes. So they've both recoiled a bit. Geralt gets up. He's readying his sword again. Krauser's got back into a position. Geralt is now obviously more aware of this lunging attack if it were to happen again. So, Geralt's a parry and take advantage of an opening type of guy, so he's probably going to wait for a move from Krauser.
I was just thinking, strategically, the best thing for Krauser to do would be to use a flashbang grenade.
Yeah.
But he can't, because one of his arms is mutant and the other one is ruined.
I mean, he's still got an arm on his arm, hasn't he?
No, his arm is only really still there from the elbow up.
Oh, I think I can see what I'm seeing. In the picture, it looked like the little lump on his left hand side by that spike. I thought that was his his hand with fingers, but I think it's actually the other side of his combat trousers. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, I thought that was that. Okay, my mistake.
So I guess really he's just going to have to go in. So I guess almost basically using it as a sword and go into a sword combat duel.
Sword combat duel.
Yeah. Don't know why I couldn't think of the word sword fight.
Because combat duel is much better. It's not just a duel, or it's not just combat. It's a combat duel. All right, so is he going to go in slashing, go in stabbing?
I guess slashing for now, because he expects Geralt to use his sword to block. So he's going in for swords, but with his arm.
Yeah, I mean, he's not wrong. Geralt is going to try and block because, a parrying is Geralt's thing. That's what he loves doing. If you were to ask Geralt his 3 top passions, they would be fucking Yennefer, fucking the other girl, I don't remember her name, and parrying. Those aren't necessarily his top 3 passions. I might be lying. So yeah, he comes in, Geralt's ready in his parry pose, comfortably takes the, defends against the slash from Krauser, looking for openings, doing that cool slow walk you do, round in a circle, doing that.
I mean, Krauser does do a lot of doing that when he's doing dagger fights with people.
So they're both doing that.
Who well know. Yeah, so they're doing the circles, trading blows, swords and stuff, and I guess it just sort of depends on who will eventually break the other one through first. I guess it just comes down to who's the better sword fighter.
Well, we talked about this last time we recorded this episode. But your man dude has a lot of Barbie type things on his, not like Barbie and Ken, on his sword blade arm, which could be used quite effectively to either wrench a sword away or be a bit more useful than just a straight blade. As Geralt has. Yeah,
I mean, I think if Krauser can catch Geralt's sword and disarm him, then that's sort of what he would do, because then that very much leaves Geralt open for the killing.
Yeah, so...
Because Geralt wouldn't have time to get his other sword out before he was
torn a new sword. They're doing a bit of whooching, because Krauser's, also quite a good swordsman, or arm swordsman. Having this biological weapon thing that he is enhanced with. There are not a huge amount of openings for, Geralt to take advantage of. Eventually, I imagine that Geralt's blade is going to land in such a way that Krauser could probably do some kind of twist and wrench the sword out from Geralt's hands. But in doing so, obviously, that's going to open. You can't do that in a way where you're then ready to attack immediately. Because you're twisting your arm in a strange way.
No,
and I think in this scenario, Geralt's got not one last trick up his sleeve, but would go for a cheeky, sword wrench from his arm. Is goes for an ard straight at Krauser.
Yes,
to stumble him, to give him enough time to withdraw his silver sword, because that's the benefit of being a Witcher. You get 2 swords. So the ching there. Bang, it catches, Krauser flicks it, and is probably feeling quite happy with himself, and then gets a force in his face. I almost said that so confidently and so coolly, and then I fluffed it. Gets a force in his face, and balls fly everywhere again, because that's the theme of the day. Balls everywhere,
all over the show.
Stumbles back a bit, and and that gives Geralt enough time to withdraw his silver sword and also just step around a bit again, so he's a bit more just at the side rather than not at the side. But I don't think Geralt would have enough time to make any kind of attack with his sword in the meantime, not in a time that Krauser can recover from an ard.
Krauser would be notably annoyed, but then would be like, well, I've disarmed him once, I can do it again.
Yes, and equally Geralt would be annoyed, but thinking, he's disarmed me once, he can do that again. So would probably go for a change of tact rather than as much parrying. Obviously he's still going to block things where necessary, but probably a bit more of the dodging aspect.
Okay. I guess ultimately it's, do you think he can dodge long enough and or block long enough that he finds an opening, or do you think eventually Krauser will be able to disarm him or just catch him while he's dodging? Because I think if Geralt hasn't got anything new except adding in a few dodges, he's probably going to lose this on a long enough timescale.
Because Krauser's going to keep up pressure. He's not going to be, just slowly doing attacks, right? So Geralt's not going to have a huge amount of time to, say, set anything up. He got the opportunity to use Ard because in the wrenching disarmament that gave Krauser a longer regeneration time, if that makes sense. So with the attacks coming in, Geralt can probably skip around, not skip, obviously quite a bit. I think the question is Krauser going to get frustrated and start doing, because if he was to keep up a steady rhythmic, what I'm saying is if he's quite well conservative, then I think he wins. But if he starts,
I don't think he would get sort of all frustrated and bothered and stuff, because he knows that he can do it, because he's already done it. He doesn't need to do anything drastic because he's already seen that he can. Yeah,
I was going to say that if he did get start swing, doing bigger swings and stuff, that would be when Geralt would be able to take an advantage in by probably rolling somewhere and doing something. But in a conservative thing, and the problem for Geralt here is he is also a very conservative man. But if he's not got much opportunity to do anything,
he's going to have to start taking risks.
Yeah, he's either going to have to take a risk, or he doesn't normally carry around daggers or anything. I imagine what would happen is they'd get back into he's doing a bit more dodging, he's blocking where possible. Eventually, again, I don't know how long it is, but eventually his sword is going to get wrenched free. At this point, Geralt's out of arming options, would probably go for either hide and find his sword, which is not the best idea, or just go for some aggression and hope that he can do something hand to hand, because that's his best bet.
Okay.
So maybe the only thing he hasn't used really is Axii. So once he gets disarmed again, goes for an Axii to try influence Krauser into, I don't know, he normally uses it to do stuff listen to my command, go away, or something. I suppose if he thinks, because of his experience with other monsters, right, where he can, say, get them to withdraw their spikes, he might try and use it to try and make Krauser unarm his arm.
Okay.
Whether that would work or not, I don't know. But it seems like a last idea effort from Mr. Geralt.
I don't what are the terms on
Whoa, what a great question. Who knows? So it just says that it tends to, it's most effective on humans, but can work on some monsters.
Krauser is human.
It's mostly used in the, there's a thing here where it says, this sign muddles the mind of an opponent, making it possible to take them out of the fight temporarily. It's the most effective against humans, but can also work on certain monsters, something else, blah, blah, blah. But I haven't ever used it a huge amount, to be honest, especially at high levels. I don't have it at high levels. And obviously it would be horrifically unfair for it to be just, you're unmined now. So I don't think it unreasonable that it would just confuse.
You say that, but we've had insta-kill things and stuff.
Well, that's true. I think, how is Krauser's mind strengthened at all or anything by these mods, these bod mods?
No, he's just normal human.
I'm not sure it would necessarily. It could have the desired effect of making him bring his arm in. That's an effect it has on that specific kind of monster. But I think it would probably then have the effect of confusing or dazing him for a bit. It isn't going to give Geralt much of an option still, because he's got to have to go in and probably literally try force his own arm into his own body or something along those lines, you know? Because if Geralt is unarmed, which he currently is, that's his option. So that would be what Geralt would try to do. The spell does say if they take any damage, then it's dispelled. So it's not a permanent thing by any means.
Well, I mean, his arm can go back to normal.
Yeah, I'm sure it can. I'm not sure that... What I was saying was I'm not sure that Geralt would be able to force him to do that with the ability.
Okay.
But I think it would at least...
I don't know. I feel like Krauser's a normal human. If his ability works on humans, it will work on Krauser.
But I reckon it would just be a temporarily stun/confusion effect on Krauser. I mean, there is an effect where it can be used to make them fight alongside them, but I mean we'll ignore that because that's just
okay.
You know, that's many on one scenario and would do nothing for. Well, I mean, no, it's not true. It wouldn't do nothing, but it seems a bit OP. But I think a mind confusion stagger thing again. There's a lot of staggering going on in this.
Yeah,
it's a staggery fight. You know, so he pulls out the last trick in his barrel of tricks, throws out an axie. Not actually throws out an axe. He doesn't have an axe. And it just confuses and stuns old Krauser boy. Geralt would try use this time. Well, he's either got to pick up his sword, but that's probably been flung quite some... You know, it's not going to be easily accessible. He's not going to know exactly where it is. It's going to be buried in balls. As a fairly strong, you know, bioengineered man, he's probably going to find his best bet is going in and trying to... Literally, because Krauser's arm sword is so Barbie and, you know, oddly shaped, is probably going to be trying to twist it in such a way that he can at least get him somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised if he could wrestle that long back barb somewhere into his chesty, necky shoulder area if he manages to get behind Krauser and wrestle it correctly. Which is going to be difficult still, but you know, that's probably what he's going to have to aim for.
I mean, that probably seems quite doable because if Krauser's going to be confused by the spell, he's not going to try and stop him.
Yeah, okay, so, you know, Krauser's still going to have resistance per se in his arms. You know, it's not as if he's like going to be a floppy marionette. Geralt can just be like, what pose you here thing. But Geralt manages to, you know, shuffle in, somewhat wrestle his raised arm a little bit and get a stab somewhere. But as soon as that one bit of damage happens, you know, I don't think he'll be able to find a fantastic... You know, for example, I don't think he'll be able to like ram his head right into that spike or whatever, but could probably get, you know, somewhere in the chest as a bit of advantage. But as soon as any damage is done, that spell is going to be completely broken. You know, although Krauser might find himself with his own sword sticking into his body somewhat, and Geralt wrangling him around the back, he is going to, you know, be back to his state, his normal being.
As he regains sort of full control, he'd probably just try and sort of swing a spike backwards into Geralt behind him.
Yeah.
So you see like the big spike at the back rather than using the stabby for a spike at the front. He'll just move his arm backwards, so to speak, and stick that into Geralt, possibly up through like Geralt's chin or something. Because it's a head height sort of spike.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking that the big back one was the one that Geralt managed to wrangle into Krauser somewhere. But I don't see it being too... Even if there's a bit of a kerfuffle shuffle between the two before Krauser manages to get, you know, some kind of a sword on him, I don't feel that Geralt's going to have any advantages left and eventually is probably going to succumb to a stab in the stab and then further stabs in the stab.
So after a bit of to-in and fro-in, Geralt dies.
Alas, poor Witcher. I knew him.
Krauser pulls out his radio and it's like, target neutralised, and then the helicopter comes back.
And all the ball pulls are fucking blown everywhere. So yeah.
Cool. That's how that fight went. Crazy.
Crazy.
And it means that Krauser has earned his mish.
I feel like Geralt could have won that fight, but he probably needed a dagger. And then, equally, if Krauser's own weapon wasn't part of his body, Geralt probably could have also won in that last-ditch effort. But, you know, being... as it was part of himself and being quite hard to wrangle to position, I feel that it didn't lead into an easy finishing blow that was required at that point. Or at least something, you know, wholly debilitating, which was, you know, going to be difficult to do when it's, attached to the guy above his arm elbow.
Yeah, definitely.
But it was close. Geralt's multitude of tricks definitely gave him a very fair shout. A lot of people out there, I can imagine, screaming and go, "No! He should have won." And maybe you're right, but that's not what happened.
No, not in the ballpit. Okay. So, I guess you'll have to give us a clue for who your next character will be to take on Krauser.
I do indeed. This character is from a webtoon that's not from a anime or a manga, but it might as well be. They are it's... Have we had any non-humans? We had a team of worms.
We did.
Have we had any other non-humans?
We've had a robot. We had a hat.
We had a hat, yes. We did. Okay, we've had quite a few non-humans. But this is a non-human character from a webtoon comic. They are a princess of Yahad, meaning they have been selected to be in this position because of their enhanced or their really useful good skills and abilities. So you better watch out.
Watch out, Krauser. Cool. Get in contact with us if you want to. You can do that by visiting us on the Twitter at podcastmmm, or you can email us podcastmmm@tinkertailorsoldiersponge.com. You can tell us how you think that fight would have gone, and whether or not you think it was right that Krauser was victorious in the ballpit. Similarly, if you have characters suggestions or arena suggestions, then please let us know. You might think, hey, a ballpit was kind of ridiculous, but not as ridiculous as my idea, and send us a really ridiculous arena.
An Excel spreadsheet.
We'd love it. Yeah, specifically cell XA1103 or whatever it was. It says Gerard.
For the record, I didn't put Gerard in there.
Gerard. Yeah. So if you want to get in contact with us, it would be cool. It's always nice to hear from you. Any final thoughts, Mr. Wade?
Final thought for the day. I can't juggle. I tried to juggle. I can't do it. And I'm having duck for dinner.
Ooh, it's tasty.
Oh, it's tasty.
I don't know what I'm having for dinner. Going to the in-laws.
Going to the in-laws.
So, whatever they cook me.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
COVID pie.
Woo!
Everyone's favourite COVID pie.
Thank you all for joining us. If you've had fun, tell your friends. Let them know the podcast is great. And we will see you soon. Bye.
Catch you all late.
Oh my god, after 9 weeks he remembered his catchphrase, even though most of the time he doesn't anyway.
Catchphrase.
Join Tom and Rob for your essential fortnightly dip into the world of British and American politics. We read all the boring stuff, so you don't have to.
And I also like to think that our kind of characteristic banter adds to the show. I ask Rob most of the questions and Rob provides the insights, don't you, Rob?
Yes, I do, and I just tend to witter on and 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 on over you. But that's fine, because people listen to it for me.